Welcome, Gunrunner.
Those of you who regularly follow my channel will remember that back in October last year I did a very similar amazing facts video on the 8-bit Dragon 32 computer. Although it was a video I really wanted to make, I was worried about how it would go down with my audience, given the rather obscure nature of the system. But it did surprisingly well considering the subject matter, and so I thought I would do something rather similar, with a video on one of the Welsh Wonder's biggest rivals, the Tangerine Oric 1. Released in 1982 by Tangerine Computer Systems, the Oric 1 was part of a big wave of British-developed home computers that included the likes of the aforementioned Dragon 32, BBC Micro, Computers Lynx, Memotech MTX, Acorn Electron, and of course the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It was followed up by the Atmos 2 years later, which was essentially just a remodel of the existing hardware with a proper keyboard. Like most of the others I mentioned, the Oric had its own very unique identity. It was easy to spot a game from this quirky computer, and the hardware looked very different to most of its rivals too. For these reasons alone, the Oric computers deserve to be remembered, but this video will give you 10 amazing pieces of trivia about the home micro that will hopefully help paint it in a new light, and open up the eyes of my audience to a system you might not have otherwise been aware of. I'm sure that anyone remotely familiar with the Oric 1 and Atmos is aware that the computer was developed by Tangerine Computer Systems. But what a lot of people don't seem to know is that the Oric 1 wasn't actually their first home computer. That was the Micro Tan 65. Often abbreviated to M65, this was a 6502 based single board microcomputer that debuted in 1979. The most unique thing about this system was that it offered huge expansion possibilities, making it a very comprehensive and powerful computer for the time. This high level of expandability meant that it became a favourite amongst the scientific community, as they were able to create their own custom devices to connect to it. The computer was available as a ready-built box or as a kit consisting of a board and components that required soldering together. The design received a very positive press at the time, and later became the basis of the design for the Oric 1. In 1981, a Micro Tan 65 kit cost just under £80, which is around £325 in today's money, and a fully built computer cost close to £90. This small difference made the latter much more attractive for anything other than the hardcore hobbyist. Until Tangerine saw the huge success of the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, they had no intention of creating a more mainstream home computer aimed at the average household. Thankfully for them though, they managed to get their own specky rival to market just 6 months after the launch of Sir Clive's computer, thanks to the already sterling work they had done on the M65. The Oric 1 hit the UK market on the 1st of September 1982 and looked suspiciously like the computer it was trying to compete with. It was almost exactly the same size and shape, but was coloured white instead of black and had proper plastic keys instead of the dead flesh rubber offerings of its counterpart. However, these keys were still very small, making it quite awkward to type on for long periods of time. It was available in both 16K and 48K configurations, the same as the Spectrum, and was sold standalone, with you needing to connect up your own tape deck to play games. The speed at which Tangerine got the Oric 1 to market very much helped it to capitalise on some of the early supply shortages that Sinclair was suffering, and they also undercut the price of the Spectrum slightly to make it seem more attractive too, with the 16K version costing around £125 and the full fat 48K coming in at around £165. As I already mentioned, the Oric 1 and Atmos both came without any media or storage devices. You were required to connect your own cassette recorder to the computer to load and save programs, in much the same way as the ZX Spectrum. A disk drive was also made available later on, although this wasn't widely supported. Unfortunately, the Oric 1 was released with several bugs in the operating system, no doubt as a result of the machine being rushed to market, including one very serious one that greatly affected the storage interface. The cassette recorder connects via a 7-pin DIN socket that is shared with the external sound output. This interface includes support for the tape motor control, and recording speeds offered as standard are 300 baud or 2400 baud. A tone leader allows automatic level control to stabilise before the file name, followed by the actual data. Finally, checksums are recorded to allow overall verification of the recording. This circuit was designed using a Schmitt trigger to remove noise and to make input more reliable. The system allows for verification of stored information against a tape copy, to ensure integrity before the information is flushed from memory. There was, however, a bug within the error checking of recording, often causing user-created programs to fail when loaded back in. Unbelievably, this bug still persists in the updated ROM created for the later Oric Atmos. As well as having some advantages in terms of its design, like the better keyboard, the Oric computers also had a number of technical advantages over their biggest rival, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum II. Undoubtedly, the biggest difference between the two micros was that the Oric has a proper sound chip, in the form of a General Instruments AY3-8910. This 3-channel programmable sound generator can also be found in systems like the Amstrad CPC, Mattel Intellivision, MSX, MB Vectrex, and indeed the later 128K models of the ZX Spectrum. The Oric also has some small graphical advantages too. Although it only has a palette of 8 colours when the Spectrum had the same but could effectively double the amount by using bright mode, it could use them better. There is still the problem of attribute clash, the same as the Spectrum, but it's nowhere near as severe. On the Speccy you can only have 2 colours in each 8x8 square that make up the screen, whereas on the Oric, 2 different colours can be defined for each 6x1 block of 6 pixels. This actually allows you to create some pretty interesting looking visuals that are unique to the Oric, which you have no doubt already witnessed in this very video. As well as getting a good start in the UK home computer market, with sales of approximately 160,000 units throughout 1983, Tangerine also launched the Oric 1 in France, to a very positive reception too, selling over 50,000 there in the same year. This actually made it the best-selling home computer in France at the time, and saw several new software houses popping up to support it, including famous names like Loracil and Infogrames, who of course are still going today and are the current owners of the Atari brand. This early success brought more investment and persuaded Tangerine to develop new models of the hardware and look into expanding the Oric brand across the rest of Europe, which was met with limited success sadly, but I'll go into detail on these 2 points a lot more later on in the video. Leading on directly from the last entry, by far the most important and influential individual to cut his teeth on the Oric was famous French programmer and games designer Oric Chau. These days he's probably most famous as the creator of Another World for Delphine software, but was also behind the unofficial sequel Heart of Darkness and the home computer adaptations of the classic Jules Verne novel Journey to the Centre of the Earth. His first Oric game was Frog in 1983, followed by Carnival later that same year. Then the following year he delivered The Sceptre of Anubis, followed by his most famous and best-selling Oric game, Doggy for Loracil, which has become a cult classic amongst owners of the home computer. Oric still speaks very fondly about the Oric when asked in interviews. As I already mentioned earlier in this video, the early success of the Oric led to new investment in the brand, and the development of new products. The high costs of this development led to the Oric brand being fully acquired by Eden Spring Investments plc in early 1984. Their first action was to release the Oric Atmos, a new redesigned version of the computer that made some quite radical changes to the design. This was in part inspired by Sinclair's announcement of the new Spectrum Plus, with its proper keyboard and much improved aesthetic. The new Oric Atmos changed the colour from white to black with added splashes of red, introduced a proper keyboard, and swapped out the original ROM for a new updated version. The new company also offered a ROM cartridge for Oric 1 computers too, which would fix several bugs that caused programs to crash. Although, much to people's chagrin, this didn't fix the annoying tape bug as mentioned earlier. Unfortunately for Eden Spring, by the time the Atmos arrived, the UK home computer market was experiencing a huge crash, with an oversaturation of different machines in the market, all desperately trying to compete with the low-cost, market-leading ZX Spectrum and the new, more advanced Commodore 64 from America. This saw many casualties, including several big names like Acorn, whose problems with the Electron saw them sell out to Olivetti, Dragon Data in Wales and Mattel, whose budget-priced Aquarius had failed to take over from the Intellivision as their key product in the video game and computing industry. Despite the extreme turbulence in the UK home computer market, Oric soldiered on and continued with new product development, and then in early 1985 they announced not one but two new machines, the Oric Stratos and the Oric Telestrat. Both the Stratos and Telestrat increased the RAM to 64K, added more ports and increased the expandability, but kept the same processor and graphics and sound hardware as the Oric 1 and Atmos. The Stratos would be a direct replacement for the Atmos aimed at the average consumer, and the Telestrat was their new business machine, aimed more at the serious computer user. Unfortunately, just one day after these new machines were announced, Oric was put into receivership. Oric was then purchased by French company Eureka, who were encouraged to buy the company due to the large user base in their homeland. They continued to produce the Atmos, but subsequently cancelled its replacement, the Stratos. They did, however, continue to refine the design of the Telestrat, which was eventually released in 1986, selling around 6,000 units. Poor sales of both machines saw the new Oric owners enter bankruptcy themselves in December 1987, shortly after announcing the new Telestrat 2 computer. Going back to another point from earlier in this video, Oric International did manage to expand into more of Europe as promised, and ended up forming a partnership with a company in the then Yugoslavia called Advotana. The Ljubljana-based company obtained a license to make 5,000 Oric Atmos computers, keeping the same design but renaming the computer the Nova 64. The 64 part was referencing the fact that the Atmos really had 64K of RAM, but 16K of this is masked by the ROM at startup, thus leaving only 48K to work with in the basic language. But as often happened with these 8-bit home computers in Eastern Europe and the Baltic region, this soon led to the technology being cloned, and in 1985 a Bulgarian company called Pravets picked up the mantle and produced their own clone of the Atmos called the 8D. As you can see, it featured a wildly different design with a proper mechanical keyboard, integrated power supply and a modified ROM that hosted both a Western European and Cyrillic alphabet. Pravets also created their own disk operating system and disk drive for the computer too. The 8D was a big success for the company, and production of the computer continued until 1991. As the Pravets is entirely hardware and software compatible with the Oric, there is a glut of software from that region that you can try out on your own Western machine. Like most popular computers and consoles from the early 80s, the Oric has a pretty vibrant homebrew community, giving the system new life in the present day, as well as some great original offerings like Blake 7, O-Type, Pulsoids, Space 1999, Magnetics and Bocco's Adventure. We've also had some amazing ports of popular ZX Spectrum games too, such as Stormlord, Manic Miner, Jetpack, Iridium, School Days and Elite. Many of the Oric's best homebrew titles were created by one Jonathan Bristow, better known as Twilight, Unfortunately, he sadly passed away in 2013, leaving several projects unfinished, but will be forever remembered by Oric fans, and leaves an amazing legacy on the home computer, not just for his own games and demos, but also for all the help and assistance he offered to other members of the community, and his unparalleled passion for the platform itself. If you've never experienced the Oric, then I strongly suggest checking out these games via real hardware or an emulator like Oric, and visiting sites like the excellent Defence Force Forum or oric.org. I will link both of these in the description for anyone who wants to check them out.
Like humans, computers have memories. Unlike humans, their memories shrink when they work. Functions like color, sound, and movement use up large amounts of memory, leaving little for you to use. The new Oric Atmos, however, takes these functions in its stride, leaving lots of memory, so you can expand into advanced programming and sophisticated games. The new Oric Atmos 48K, the large memory that stays large.
And that rounds up my look at 10 amazing Oric 1 and Atmos facts. Which one of these fabulous facts was your favourite, or can you think of any other tantalising tidbits of trivia that I didn't include? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons for continuing to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons in particular for their much appreciated pledges: Mitchell Valentino, Neptune, Seth A. Robinson, Carl Olsen, Dos Gamerman, Ozzy B, D Vaughan and Electron Star Collabs. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go and check out my Patreon right now. You can get access to host for extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.